All right. So we're here once again on episode 59 of Commanders in the Chat. What's going on, Rob?
Good, good. It's been a actually a decent week of no off the field news. Nothing but Commanders talk of possible playoff team and playoff run. It feels nice. It's a little different. I like it. I get used to this.
Yeah, it's been a very quiet week. Knock on wood, but it's been a very quiet week for the Washington Commanders. And coming in town is the Atlanta Falcons. So obviously, everybody know when the Falcons come to play, I got to bring in my guy Miles Garrett. What's going on, Miles?
How's it going, guys? Good to see y'all again. It's been about a year now, right?
About a year, yeah. It came on my other Couch Coach Live. We came to Atlanta last year in that October matchup of 2021. But yeah, man. So a lot of stuff is going on. It definitely it's funny how this Atlanta Falcons team. I know a lot of people looked at them in the preseason as if like, oh, this team was going to probably one of the worst teams in the NFL. But you're sitting out here at 5-6. So, Miles, what are your thoughts on this Falcons season?
Yeah, no, you mentioned it there. A lot of people preseason. I feel like a lot of people involved with the team were kind of aware of this, but I feel like it was more of a national perspective of the Falcons that they were going to be, 2-15, all this kind of stuff, and people close to the team kind of knew that wasn't going to be the case, just because of head coach Arthur Smith and his ability to kind of get the best out of these players. I think more or less it was sort of, you see that the franchise quarterback for over a decade has now left the team. Julio Jones is gone. So what did they have? They just had Kyle Pitts. They just had Cordero Patterson. We didn't know what Cordero Patterson was going to be. And just a defense that has Grady Jarrett. I feel like that was sort of the national perspective for the Falcons. But I think they have done very well given the circumstances that they have. This is one of the most cap-ridden teams in NFL history. With the dead cap that they're dealing with. They're still paying Matt Ryan, still paying Julio Jones, all these different guys that just aren't playing for them anymore. So the last 2 years, and this year specifically, they've had to sort of rely on these outside, 1-year prove-it deal type players to sustain the success outside of the draft class. And given that that's the case, you can't help but be relatively happy with where they're at right now. They're in playoff positioning as bad as the NFC South has been this year. But really just all of the NFC, right? I mean, the NFC itself has been a pretty weak conference this year, and sort of everyone's kind of fighting for positioning there. But yeah, I mean, the Falcons have had some good wins. The 49ers win is definitely the one that sticks out the most. That was sort of their most complete win. They won it, fairly easily, toward the end of the game. It didn't come down to the wire like it seems like every other Falcons game has this season. But yeah, for the most part, I'd say this has been a solid year two, the Arthur Smith, Terry Fontenot regime, given what they've been strapped by money-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's definitely like jockeying for a spot because obviously, with us being 6-5, you guys are 5-6. It's kind of one of those where we're like, pretty much together in the standings. So pretty much like a win like this could definitely either on both ends to help propel them going into the month of December. So also, I'm gonna get also your thoughts first, Miles, on what are your storylines to watch in this matchup against the Commanders?
Yeah, I mean, a big obvious one right now is the fact that Kyle Pitts is headed to injured reserve. So they'll be down Kyle Pitts. But, at the same time, you can't help but notice it's another glaring fact with the Falcons is that Kyle Pitts has not had the kind of impact this season that he had last year as a rookie as far as yardage, touchdowns. He only had 1 touchdown last year. But he has impacted the game a good bit blocking wise. So, that will be missed. But I'm not expecting it to be too much of a impact as a lot of people seem to think that it might be. Michael Pruitt and Parker Hesse have stepped up big time for the Falcons at the tight end position. So that'll be one to watch. I do expect the Falcons to continue with their rushing attack every game that, they're finding success running the ball usually means they're going to, have a good performance. Unfortunately, Marcus Mariota hasn't been the best as far as when you rely on him to win the game for you when it comes to being a quarterback and throwing it, 20, 25 times a game. Lately we're seeing him throw it maybe 15 times a game and the Falcons are still able to muster out some wins. So I expect the Falcons to continue to rely on that ground attack. Again, it's kind of here and there depending on the situation with their passing attack. They do have talent. Drake London has shown has flashed some phenomenal potential. It's sort of the same potential that Kyle Pitts showed last year at that wide receiver position. Olamide Zaccheaus has done very well as a wide receiver 2/3. Last year he was a wide receiver 1 with the Calvin Ridley issue, and that's not his forte. He's at his best when he's sort of in that slot role. Guys like Kaderil Hodge have stepped up. But again, the story with the Falcons is all their rushing attack. Cordero Patterson, rookie Tyler Algier has been very good, as well as practice squad elevated guy, Caleb Huntley. And you pair that with Marcus Mariota's rushing ability, it's something else you got to consider back there in the backfield when facing Atlanta.
For sure. Rob, what are your storylines of watching this in this matchup?
A classic offense versus defense type matchup, especially if you look at the two strengths from each of the respective teams. Miles hit on it. The run game is big for Atlanta, second in rushing yards, seventh in rushing touchdowns. And you look at the opposite for the Commanders, 10th in rushing touchdown or rushing yards allowed, and ninth in rushing touchdowns allowed. So it's really going to be just a matter of if the Falcons are going to be able to kind of wear the Commanders' front four down, kind of like what we did to Philadelphia and Houston last week. If they're able to do that, how is Marcus Mariota going to respond? Because they're 30th in passing yards offense and 16th in passing touchdowns. Is Marcus Mariota going to be able to go up and really pick apart the secondary that, as of late, over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, has been playing very, very well? We saw Kendall Fuller get the pick six early in the game last week. Derek Forster is playing phenomenal. Benjamin St. Juste, that injury that he suffered on the Derek Forster interception last week was nothing. So he'll be suiting up. He'll be ready to go. So that secondary, are they going to be able to take advantage if Marcus Mariota is going to have to put the ball in his hands and beat this team with his arm?
Yeah. So it's a lot, and it's funny. All roads lead. Everyone in the NFL pretty much has somewhat of a Washington Commanders storyline. Obviously, Arthur Smith. Actually, once upon a time, he was a part of this organization. He was our defensive quality control coach in 2007. So, this interesting, like the homecomings. We had Matt LaFleur earlier, then Kevin O'Connell, our last home game. So, homecoming of sort, and then what's crazy about that, as far as how like the kind of the dots really connect. Because obviously, with the game on Sunday, it's going to be the 15th anniversary of Sean Taylor's death, and they're going to have the statue. They're going to display. They're going to have have the statue unveiling that game as well. So it's kind of interesting, like kind of that time. And then Arthur Smith was around during when Sean Taylor was on the team. So. And then just the fact that the Commanders are coming home after obviously two great road wins, obviously in Philly and also in Houston. So, can they come back from that heartbreaking home loss against the Vikings 3 weeks ago? So it's a lot of storylines to go around with this matchup against the Falcons. But it seems like everybody, for some odd reason, has had some form of had a cup of coffee in Washington. Yeah. It never fails, right?
Yep. And they're all doing great things now.
All doing great things, right? All
Kyle Shanahan included.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll see in a couple weeks.
Yeah, on Christmas Eve. Yep. And we always, sing his praises. Him and Sean McVay, all those guys. Yep. So, any particular matchup that you guys are looking for in this matchup, in this game? I'm going to go with you first, Miles. Any particular matches that you're looking forward to watching?
Yeah, no, it will be interesting to see how I think Taylor Heineke approaches the passing game when it comes to Atlanta, because Atlanta's taken some hits in the secondary. A.J. Terrell will be back in the lineup, but he's been sort of banged up. Casey Hayward was lost to injured reserve. And they've dealt with some other injuries there. It was a strength for the Falcons to start the season, but in the last few weeks, they've taken some hits there. So I would expect to see Taylor Heineke in the passing game try to go after them a little bit. But the Falcons have been pretty good, or at least were really good this past few weeks, containing Justin Fields. I think a lot of Falcons fans were pleasantly surprised to see their ability. Again, Justin, he made his plays. That was just, it was going to happen based on how he's been playing the last month. But for the most part, the Falcons kept him in check. He had a rushing touchdown. He had one passing touchdown, but they did contain him for the most part. And outside of that one game where PJ Walker and Dante Foreman sort of went off in that atrocious Thursday Night Football game, just a week and a half prior when they faced the Falcons, they held PJ Walker in check, who's kind of, he's got that ability to make plays outside of the pocket. So it really is a matter of which Falcons team shows up, because they've kind of picked and choose which times they want to, perform at their best. So it is kind of dependent on that. I do expect Washington to run the ball a good bit just because of how much success they've had. And you touched on it earlier, just the rushing attacks that both teams have. It is maybe a quick game, like the Bears game was. Both teams like to run the ball a good bit. So that's one I do have my eye on. As far as the Falcons offense is concerned, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and maybe pass it a little bit more than expected. They're going to run the football. I mean, that's a mathematical certainty just because of how successful they are at it. But I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe Marcus and Arthur Smith maybe mix it up a little bit and pass it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, any matchup that you look forward to watch?
I'm looking at our running backs against this front seven. I was looking at the numbers of Atlanta. Let's be frank, they're not good. They're 28th in yards per play, 29th in rushing touchdowns, 22nd in rushing yards. And you look at their pass defense, 32nd in total yards allowed, total passing yards allowed, and 29th in scoring defense. Theoretically, this offense, if Scott Turner is smart with it and he devises a good game plan, Taylor Heineke should be able to nitpick this defense, in any way he chooses. But it is Taylor Heineke, and just as much as Miles said that Atlanta likes to pick and choose when they show up, Taylor Heineke likes to pick and choose when he shows up and wants to play a decent game. And again, it's going to come down to Scott Turner building a game plan for Taylor Heineke and Taylor Heineke sticking to the game plan and not trying to play hero ball, which he's done a very good job the last 2 weeks, especially in Philadelphia. Other than that, only other matchup I'd really want to see is if Chase Young does play, how he does. I think Ron Rivera said he's going to be on a 15 to 20 snap count, kind of like a pitch count. I just want to see how he looks against that offensive line and really just see what his knees looking like, how he's moving side to side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, Taylor Heineke, because Taylor Heineke, he was from Gwinnett, right?
Is he Collins Hill?
Yes, yeah, sir. Okay, yeah, Gwinnett. Yeah, I knew it.
Did a segment on him today.
Yeah, because I know it's always like I always get where he's from. Like I know because people say, well, he's not technically from Atlanta. He's like from Gwinnett County.
Yeah, there's been a whole debate about what's Atlanta and what's not Atlanta. Yeah. He's from the greater Atlanta area, I would say.
Right. So this is what. Yeah, I'm glad for clearing that up because I think we talked about that. I talked to somebody about it last year about, and they're like, well, he's really not from Atlanta. I'm like, okay, well, whatever.
I always tell people I'm from Atlanta. I'm not really from Atlanta because if I say I'm from Alpharetta, they're going to be like, where's that? It's like, it's a suburb of Atlanta. So
right, facts. That's how it is. That's how it is. Like when with Russell Wilson, like, because even though he's in his bio, he's from Richmond, but he's from like a suburb west of Richmond, but he's still Richmond. So it's kind of like
it's
that.
Easier to explain.
Example. Exactly. Instead of actually giving out his, where he's actually the city he's from, and because it's going to have a Richmond tie. But
exactly. Yeah. That's how it goes.
So I think I don't necessarily have as far as a individual. I have more of an individual matchup in a sense. Pretty much, Cordell Patterson and versus Curtis Samuel. Both of them in a sense they're like the two Swiss Army knives of each teams. And like Cordell Patterson, he shredded us in the last game that we played you guys in Atlanta last year. So like I could definitely see him having that type of a game again. And then also we had Curtis in that game against Atlanta, but obviously coming off that hamstring, he really wasn't 100% when we faced each other last October. So just seeing them now, seeing what they're going to do, because they're definitely going to be an integral part of either team's success. I think if Cordell has a great game, Atlanta's gonna have a great shot, and then also with Curtis, I think if he has a great game, Washington have a legitimate shot as well. So Miles, I gotta ask you, what are the keys for a Falcons win to get yourself at 500 going into December?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of touched on it already, but I mean, the Falcons have to continue their success in the running game, and basically, as far as offense is concerned, if the running game does work, Marcus Mariota can't turn it over. That's been where the Falcons have had some issues, because they run the ball in every single game they play, but when they face issues is when they turn the ball over in these freak incidents. It seems it's just like an Atlanta thing. I don't know what it is, but they just seem to have these costly turnovers at bad times. And I don't expect the Falcons to have a big passing game. I remember I mentioned that I expect them to maybe a little bit more than expected. But again, I feel like every team in the NFL, the more balanced they are, the more successful they'll be. So if the Falcons are efficient in the passing game, then I think they will win. As far as on the defensive side for a Falcons win, I think they've got to rattle Heineke. They've got to get him down. They can't let him create things outside of the pocket, because that's what he did last year, and he just shredded the Falcons. You saw that, especially, I mean, you can make the case that the Falcons should have won the game last year. Just at the very end, Heineke, he realized the Falcons are the Falcons at the very end of the game. So Falcons can't seem to close out fourth quarters, so they have a knack for that. But joking aside, the Falcons, I think, are the key to their victory. They're going to have to contain Heineke and force him to make plays in the pocket. Sort of a similar thing to, I think, a Commanders' victory is forcing Marcus Mariota to beat them. I think the Falcons have to force Taylor Heineke to beat them.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll turn our attention to the Commanders. So, Rob, what are some keys for you for us, the Commanders, to take a 7-5 victory lead, not 7-5 record going into December?
Miles hit it on the head. You have to get to Marcus Mariota. You have to make him beat you. I don't think he can. Like I said earlier, this defense has been playing great last few weeks. If you're able to shut that run game down, like I said, they're 30th in pass offense and 60th in passing touchdowns. Our pass defense isn't great. We're 19th in passing yards allowed. And we are 10th in yards per play overall. But if you're able to shut down that run game, force Marcus Mariota to not only beat you, but to have to go through his progressions and make him not be comfortable in the pocket. That's a huge thing. But with that being said, he is a mobile quarterback, so you got to be able to contain him. You can't just everybody rush in, allow him to get to the outside and break off a 12, 15-yard run, every other play. You're going to have to contain him. And I think that's where Chase Young is actually going to come in clutch this week. Again, you don't have to – he's going to be on a pitch count. He doesn't have to go full speed 100%. So maybe a majority of his plays that he is in, just have him kind of sit on the outside and contain Mariota. Because if you allow him to get onto the outside and get a run lane, it's going to be very hard to beat this team.
For sure. I think also, like you said, almost to kind of echo your sentiment as far as I look at pressure to Mariota, like pretty much kind of collapse the pocket for him. So that giving him opportunities, like, and that's to beat us. I definitely think can we contain the run? Almost, I think I was really impressed with kind of what we did against Houston, really pretty much containing Damian Pierce. At that, at the time he was like the fifth leading rusher in the in NFL at that time. So can we contain that run? And like you said, I definitely think Taylor Heineke is going to have an opportunity to get, to have an opportunity to throw the football. Because I think you guys are 27 sacks. I think which guys only had
there's been some struggles getting into the court. It's been an issue for 2 decades.
Yeah. So I think if he gets that ability, because I think Taylor Heineke, if he has time, and he, like you said, Miles, he can shred you. If you give him time, just like any quarterback in his league, if you give them time and opportunity, that they could beat you. So I definitely think that I think essentially, and also with Taylor Haneke, he can't turn the ball over. I think that's one thing too, where this is going to be a little intriguing because I mean, I think you guys would have like 9 interceptions on the season, so it's kind of like it's deceptive, like as far as an opportunity for you guys, like as far as getting turnovers off of Taylor Haneke. So as long as he don't turn the football over, I think, like you said, we run the game, run the ball. And what's so funny? The irony of it all, who's first in time of possession in the NFL? The Washington Commanders. We've been talking about this since 2021, like finally, So, right. So
yeah,
I look at that.
Even going back to last year, we talked about that during the 4-game winning streak we had last year. Is we're killing in time of possession, especially in that Tampa game.
Yep. And now, now it's finally coming into fruition. So I look at that. So I think those are kind of the keys in essence for a Washington Commanders win. So, fellas, it is the time that I got to ask you guys the $1 million question. So prediction time. So, Miles, who you got in this matchup? The winner and then the score, if you got a score.
Oof. Well, I got to be a homer a little bit. Because I will say the Falcons are very good at getting to 500. They're not good at getting above 500. So this is 5 and 6. This is prime positioning to get to 500. So I'm going to say Dirty Birds win this one. Let's call it, I'm going to say 24-14.
Okay. Rob?
Oh, it's tough. Washington does not like to be above 500.
Very similar teams.
Yeah.
The Spider-Man meme.
We love getting to 500. Once we're at 500, we feel like we've peaked and we can take a break.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, I think it's gonna be a close game. I think 24-21 Commanders eke out a victory. Little Joey Sly field goal in the last 15 seconds.
There we go.
Yeah. We can't be beat by Young Way. So
come on. Yeah. That's my goat.
Yeah, right. He's legit. And it's funny. So actually, I got the Commanders actually winning the inverse of your score, Miles. I got the Commanders winning 24-14.
Okay.
So
Okay.
So yep.
If this was the opposite, if the Falcons were 500 right now, then I'd just give the Commanders the edge there.
Right, I know, right? and vice versa. If we were 5 and 6 as well, but now 6 and 5 is like
exactly. So
it's uncharted territory. This team don't know what to do now.
I know, right? Because we haven't been over 500 in 4 years.
This late in this past week too, yeah. I've been bringing it up for weeks.
Right, it's bizarre.
Last time for the Falcons, it was the 2017 playoffs, so it's been a minute for them too.
Yeah. But yeah, so we'll put a bow on this week's Commanders in the chat. Episode 59. I guess we can. This is the London Fletcher edition.
The London Fletcher, Pro Football Hall of Fame semifinalist. London Fletcher.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So Miles, tell them where they can find you on social media in the upcoming project, what you got going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm very active on Twitter, especially on Falcons game days. You can find me on Twitter at Miles Garrett TV, Miles with an I, not a Y. And for any Atlanta folks who might be watching, we do a lot of Falcon shows on Fox 5. We do Rise Up Tonight, which airs every midnight Friday nights with Kelly Price, talking kind of more of a chill, relaxed Falcon show. Then Early Birds, 8:30 Saturday mornings. With our Justin Felder and former quarterback DJ Shockley talking about the game. And then Sunday night, there's the Dirty Bird Report, which is an hour-long post-game show. So if you guys like watching the Falcons, Fox 5 is the place for you. I'm in charge of those shows, so shameless plug there.
For sure. And do they – because I don't really be on Twitter during game days anymore because I guess just for my sanity.
I need to get to that level.
They still do at you with Miles Garrett?
Do they still what?
They still at you?
Not all. It's usually always when something big happens with Miles
Yeah.
Garrett. Like if
Yeah.
he like has a huge game or something
Yeah.
happens, then something something might happen in that regard. But yeah, no, that it still happens from time to time. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever get rid of it. But
I don't think so either. I know because at first I like and kudos you for just holding this for so many years because I remember even going back, dating back like to 2020. I'm like, y'all still don't know this man.
Oh yeah,
Miles Garrett with a Y.
It's crazy. I mean, we look so similar. So
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what it has to be.
I guess I understand, where people might get caught up in it.
It's just like right because it's Miles Garrett TV, and I'm like,
yeah, no,
why
I
would
guess
you
it's
make
just the
that?
blue check mark. That's all I got going for me right now. But
Right.
yeah, one more plug I got too. Actually, I completely forgot.
For sure,
I
for sure,
was wearing
yeah.
wearing the shirt. If any movie people out there, I'm going to be in this movie, Fantasy Football, coming out Friday. So I have a very small part in it, but if anyone likes
Okay.
movies, I'm in it.
Okay, you bet. Because that's coming out Friday. Yeah, that's right. Because that's with Amari Hardwick.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
With Kelly Rowland.
Yeah.
Rowland, and
Mm-hmm.
then the girl from Blackish.
Yes.
Marissa. Yeah. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, we go watch that. Be like, yeah, oh yeah, that's my boy Miles Garrett over there.
There you go.
For sure.
There you go.
Yeah, we definitely go. We gonna get that. Yep, we'll definitely check that out. So, Rob, where can you find your social media and any upcoming project which you got going on?
Y'all already know where you can find me, FNC Pod on Twitter, Football and Chill Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Miles, again, thank you so much for coming on. Very insightful. Definitely giving up something other than like a different look in the Falcons than what I pull up just in the stats.
Absolutely.
But,
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I have nothing big coming up. I'm about to move in a couple weeks, so then once I get back down to San Diego to some warm weather, I'll be able to, do a couple shows from outside on my patio, sipping pina coladas. But until then, Commanders in the chat. So are we doing post game Sunday?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Yeah. Episode 60. Yeah, the Chris
All
Samuels
right.
edition. Yeah.
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 That's a forgotten name, but yeah, Commanders in the chat Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern.
Yes, indeed. And pretty much Commanders in the chat, Commanders ITC on pretty much anyway, get social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram is there. And also check out the podcast Commanders in the chat. Pretty much Apple, Spotify, we're there as well. Then also check out my other podcast, Couch Coach Live. Pretty much same thing, Couch Coach Live, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, under there, and then also the podcast Couch Coach Live. So pretty much just do a search Couch Coach Live and also Commanders in the chat. We'll be there. And once again, definitely appreciate you, Miles, for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Always consider you're a top 5 guest when it comes to Couch Coach Live and Commanders in the chat. So definitely appreciate you coming on. And man, we're definitely gonna check out fantasy football for sure. Awesome. But yeah, man. So so this has been this week's Commanders in the chat. We'll see you guys on the post game on Sunday at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time. And we're out.